A new concept has come into being of late, the academic or the investigator initiated clinical trials, and this module is going to discuss these. We're going to try to understand the ethical and regulatory implications of these academic or investigator initiated clinical trials. Let us look at what ICMR calls the clinical trial. It is any research or study that prospectively assigns human participants or groups of humans to one or more health-related intervention and evaluate its health outcomes. This is a very, very general definition in order to include a large number of interventions that are performed and not restricted to drugs, which on the other hand, the drugs and cosmetics rules, the rule 122DA, clearly defines clinical trial as a systematic study of new drugs in human subjects. And then it goes on to describe why the study is being done, essentially to understand the action or the side effects of the drug. This is a classification that we can make clinical trials be divided into, like they can be called regulatory, that is those which are conducted for the purpose of drug development. And the reason, the objective for doing this is for commercialization. You want to, a pharmaceutical company or anybody wants to market that drug, and for commercial reasons, they will obviously naturally, if they want to market this drug, they will have to take regulatory approval from the CDSU, from the Drug Controller General of India, for which this one group we have is regulatory studies, which will be covered in a different module for you. And the second group, which has really been born from a regulatory point of view a year or two ago, are the academic or the investigator initiated studies, which are done purely for academic interest. And as I said, 16th March 2016, these studies were first defined in our country as the academic clinical trial is one that is intended for academic purposes in respect of, that means when you do the study with an approved drug formulation for any new indication, route of administration or dosage form. We will understand this in a little more detail as we go along. Now, in order to understand this whole concept of academic trial, we need to understand this rule, 122E of the drugs and cosmetics rules again. What is a new drug? Our country defines a new drug as that which has not been used in this country to any significant extent. That is not, you don't consider them, if they are being used in a clinical trial, then that's not part of this. It's an investigational new drug and it's undergoing investigation. Not been used in the country, not been registered, not been approved by our regulatory agency. Or if it is an already approved drug, say take for aspirin, which is approved for myocardial infarction or ischemic heart disease. And now in the low dose, you want to test it for pregnancy-induced hypertension. I'm not sure if it is regulatory approved. I just gave you an example, but it's an indication which is not approved. Letrozole is a classic example. It was approved for its anti-cancer effect, but it would, if you were to use it for ovulation induction, then that would be a definite reason to call it a new drug, a new indication for a drug that is already marketed, or it is in a new dosage. Instead of 20 milligrams twice a day, which is the approved labeled indication, you want to use it now for 40 milligrams twice a day. That also becomes a new drug. A dosage form, if it was a conventional release preparation and now you want to make it into a slow release preparation, or you want to give it by a new route of administration. For example, many people want to use intravenous preparations sublingually, or intravenous preparations intrathecally or intra-articularly, that means into the joint. All these become new drug. I wish that you understand this very clearly, because this is crucial to understanding the concept of academic drug trials. Fixed dose combinations, any of already approved drugs become a new drug. All vaccines and recombinant derived, DNA derived drugs are new drugs. And any drug after marketing for 4 years is considered to be a new drug. So it remains a new drug for 4 years after it is officially marketed. Now, if you want to do a clinical trial on this so-called off-label use of drugs, so take midazolam, it is available as an IV preparation for anesthesia. You want to test it for febrile convulsions in children and you want to use it sublingually. This is an off-label use of the drug and this is a new indication and therefore, or it's even a new route of administration. But you want to do it only for academic use because it's published somewhere else. But you are not going to commercialize it, you're just an academician, you're a professor of anesthesia or a pediatrician who wants to do this drug. You're definitely not going to use it for commercial reasons. Then, this trial does not require regulatory approval, although it is a new drug. Although as per definition in 122E, it is still a new drug, but you do not require regulatory approval. However, ethics committee has to approve it. So the responsibility, the regulatory responsibility now lies squarely on the shoulders of these ethics committee members. Of course, the licensing authority has to be informed. And if you look at this GSR 313, there are so many issues that are important to remember that you don't need regulatory approval, but you do need ethics committee approval. And this ethics committee, if it approves such a trial, which is on off-label use of a drug or for different indication, etc., it has to inform the DCGI. And if the DCGI doesn't respond back in a month's time, in 30 days' time, they can go ahead and issue their approval. All these factors have to be remembered, especially if you are an ethics committee member. Many things are recommendatory, but it is very good if these are not regulatory trials now, these are academic trials. And for regulatory trials, you have to be registered. But when you're reviewing academic trials, you're actually reviewing regulatory studies because it's a new indication, it's a new formulation. And therefore, it's recommended, it's highly suggested that you do EC registration under Rule 122DD. Perhaps as you move along to improve your functioning, you should also do accreditation. Insist that the trial is registered in the CTRI just as it is mandatory for regulatory studies. The EC now has to play this regulator's role. In the composition of the EC, it is recommended that you have a pharmacologist, a medical or a clinical pharmacologist to review because this is about drugs and it is about trials, and the benefit risk assessment and the scientific assessment would probably be best done with such an expert individual involved. If not a member, then you should take opinions and take advice. And the EC must review ethical and regulatory aspects, not just ethical aspects. They must look at the regulatory aspects as well. Remember, here the investigator now has a dual role. He not only is the investigator, but he is also the sponsor. And therefore, not just a funder, it's not just about paying the money, but he plays the role of the sponsor in that GCP. If you remember good clinical practices, the sponsor has several roles to play. All these roles the investigator must play. The institution has their responsibilities now because these are quasi-regulatory studies. The people are going to be performing studies with drugs which are regulatorily not approved, not for the indication they are going to be tested or for the route they are going to be tested in. So there should be financial arrangements, funds or mechanisms for the conduct of the study, for free management. Research related injury and compensation should be as close to the law as possible, because although these are out of the purview of the regulator, for best practices, the ethics committee should insist on compensation and free medical management to the extent possible. The institution must have mechanisms to ensure the data quality and the safety. So you have to have your own internal DSMBs, you should have internal monitoring, auditing. You should have mechanisms for appropriate informed consent, conduct of the trial, and proper follow up. The institution becomes very important. And there is one last type of study, that is student projects. They may be ICMR STS projects, or they may on the other hand be all the student theses that we are talking about. It is important to understand that the guide and the institution will take up the responsibility of the sponsor and will ultimately be responsible, and not the student who may be the first author in publication, but it is the guide who needs to take this responsibility for these academic studies. And finally, as an ethics committee, you must make new SOPs to be able to address this whole new entity of academic clinical trials, because they are quasi-regulatory, just outside the regulator's purview. The whole responsibility is right now sitting on your shoulders as an ethics committee member, and therefore you must understand the law properly and make and follow your SOPs. Thank you so much.